5 people on the call so far this evening, but I'm sure there'll be others joining us. I'm Frances Scott, founder and director of 50/50 Parliament, and it's great to have so many of you on the call with us this evening. I'm very relieved that you're not all zoomed out, but the Zoom presents us with a fabulous opportunity to be nationwide with 50/50. So thanks for joining us. And we're honoured to be joined by a fantastic panel who I'll introduce you all to shortly. 50/50's mission is to inspire and support women to progress in politics. We want everyone here, men and women, to help us with this. We want to build a better, more representative and gender-balanced democracy that draws upon the widest possible pool of talent and range of experience. At the top of government, men dominate decision-making. There are still 2 times more men than women on most elected bodies. In the 100 years or so since women won the right to stand, well over 5,000 MPs have been elected, but only 557 have been women. To quote Emmeline Pankhurst, "We are here not because we're lawbreakers. We are here in our efforts to become lawmakers. We want women to have equal seats and equal say. And this evening, we want to inspire all kinds of women, but we're particularly reaching out to women in the legal professions. 20% of MPs have some kind of legal experience. And given that MPs are responsible for drafting our laws, legal training is useful. Planning the future is a joint responsibility between men and women, and Parliament, as an institution, should be showing respect for women and their life experience and particular skills." So now I want to tell you a little bit about 50/50 Parliament and our fantastic network of support. When women go to our website and click sign up to stand, we do 4 things. First, we send them an interactive personal political profile with a list of sort of ideas about how to build a political CV. Then we allocate them a 50/50 buddy, a kind of peer-to-peer support. Then we invite them to weekly party-specific bite-sized meetings for expert advice. And last but not least, we offer bespoke support to women from diverse groups. We're an intersectional and inclusive campaign working with all the political parties to help women progress in politics. Everyone is welcome to join us and join our mailing list free of charge to support our work. But if you do want to make a financial contribution, become a friend of 50/50 via our website. And the great news is we're making a difference. We're really proud that in 2019 general election, 50 of the women standing were part of our Sign Up to Stand programme. And of those 50 women, 9 went on to win seats in the Commons. Today, over 2,400 women have signed up to stand with us, and we're helping them to take the next steps along the path to Parliament and elected office. Maybe today is the first time you've considered politics as a possible career path, or perhaps you've been thinking about it for a while and wondering how you could serve your country or community. Well, this evening we aim to inspire you and encourage you to think about taking the next step. We hope that more women from the legal profession in Parliament will lead to better, more representational laws. We are going to open up the floor to questions at the end, so please do put questions in the chat. And the 50/50 team on the call tonight, if you would give us a wave, 50/50 team in your t-shirts, and we will gradually do our best to answer them. So now let me introduce you to our inspirational panel of top legal women who are here to inspire you to take the plunge into the politics. First, it's a huge honour for me to welcome I.Stephanie Boyce. Stephanie is president of the Law Society and has recently been appointed to HM Treasury and the Department for Business, Enterprise and Industrial Strategy Commission. an independent task force boosting socioeconomic diversity at senior levels in financial and professional services. In 2020, Stephanie was voted onto the governance Hot 100. I think that must be top 100 board influencers, sorry, and made the Power List 100 most influential Black people in the UK in 2021. So it's great to have you with us, Stephanie, and thank you so much for being here this evening. So my first question is to you. Do you think people, and women in particular, with a legal background make good legislators?
I mean, firstly, can I say thank you very much for inviting me to speak this evening. I mean, there are already quite a few legally qualified parliamentarians in Parliament, but there is obviously an opportunity there for legally qualified candidates in Parliament and government, and there are several occasions where government has been led by lawyers. But many of the skills needed by lawyers and that are learned and instilled throughout our training and in practice are useful and important in the context of decision making and legislating. And that's whether assimilating vast amounts of often very complex information to achieve workable solutions for people, or engaging with people to establish their concerns, their needs and experiences. So many lawyerly skills are also useful tools when working in the public interest. And the importance of those skills and expertise of lawyers in Parliament is borne out by the fact that the system relies on there being these law officers, such as the Attorney General, the Solicitor General and Advocate General in Scotland. And they play an important role in government to advise on legal issues which permeate right through all areas of decision making. So, but not only this, but lawyers, by the very definition of our work, are committed to upholding the rule of law and ensuring that the law is accessible to those who need it. So who better to be involved in the creation of legislation than those with experience in how it is interpreted in the real world for people in their everyday lives. And it's those real world experience that lawyers hold in the application of the law and in the justice system, which can help in ensuring that individuals and parliamentarians create good law, but also in providing an important and informed scrutiny function as well. So, for instance, a lot of casework can have a legal dimension too. So it can be useful if a member of Parliament knows and understands where their constituents can get legal support from. And of course, I would say that, getting legal advice from a solicitor who is, qualified, regulated and insured is a good starting point. So in short, people from all walks of life and with all types of lived experience can provide a valuable input into the legislative process. And lawyers as a profession have a vast array of background experiences and skills that make them worthy candidates as well.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Absolutely. I mean, it strikes me as perfect sense that people making the laws, if they've got a legal background, would probably be well qualified for that. Thank you. So our next guest is Susan Bright, and Susan is Global Managing Partner for Diversity, Inclusion and Responsible Business at Hogan Lovells. In her role, Susan works with colleagues to lead their efforts on diversity, inclusion, well-being, pro bono, community investment, fundraising, partnerships, and how to operate sustainably around the globe. Under her leadership, Hogan Lovells has been recognized as one of the top 10 most innovative law firms in Europe for 5 consecutive years. Susan is also about to become a 50-50 trustee, so massive thanks to Susan. So, Susan, given that you're about to join our Board of Trustees, why do you think it's important to have more women in elected office?
Thank you, Frances. Thank you very much for inviting me to join you today. And it's amazing to look at this big group of women and men who are here today to listen to this. I met and know Amanda Carpenter, who's the current chair of trustees, and we met actually at COP26 to catch up. And she said to me, have you ever thought of standing for Parliament? And I stood there and said, no, I haven't. But the fact that she just asked me the question was very powerful. And it really made me think. And so later on, when I was asked, will you be a trustee of 50-50 Parliament to encourage more women to stand and to progress in politics? By that point, it was a very easy answer to say, yes, I'd love to. Why do I think it is important to have more women in elected office? Honestly, for me, it's about inclusion and about good decision making. And that I've experienced throughout my career in a law firm and in my dealings with clients. That it is almost invariably the case that when you have people making decisions or sitting around a table who come from different perspectives, and particularly having perspectives from men and women, but right across the piece, you will get better decisions, more thoughtful conversation. I personally experienced that when at a stage in my career, I joined the Hogan Lovells Global Management Committee. And at the time I joined, there were about 12 people. There were 2 women, I was the third, and progressively more women joined during my time. The nature of the conversations, the ability to ask questions, all of that changed by having those different perspectives around the table. And I was talking about this just before we started, but if anybody, isn't convinced by the need to have those different perspectives and different interests in order to make good law and make good policy, I would encourage you, and I'm sure many of you have done this already, to read this fabulous book called Invisible Women. You probably can't quite see it, I've got it here, by Caroline Criado Perez. And it's absolutely fascinating about, what happens in terms of policy making, urban planning, product design, almost anything, when you don't have that diversity of perspective and including a woman's perspective around the table. So for me, those are really the reasons, Frances. Women make up 50% pretty much of our population here in the UK. So it seems obvious to me as night following day that we should have 50% women in any elected body. Simple as that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Susan. I mean, I would almost argue it's a human right. If you go back to the sort of Charter of Human Rights Convention or whatever it was, about the third sentence was sort of gender equality. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much indeed. In fact, with a majority of the population. So, and thank you for coming onto our board. We really appreciate it. So our next guest is Ania Rontaler. Ania is a partner in the corporate group of Simmons and Simmons in London and heads up the private markets group. Ania has a particular focus on the asset management sector, advising alternative investment managers on all aspects of their business, including the implementation and structuring of startups. Ania is co-chair of the Simmons and Simmons Gender Network and is the firm's gender balance partner. So welcome, Ania. And the question I'd like to ask you is, what transferable skills do lawyers have that would equip them to be good MPs and counsellors? If you'd like to answer that question, I mean, I think Stephanie referred to some of them, but you might be able to add.
No, thank you, Frances, and look, thank you. I was really excited to join this panel because I have a secret, although not so secret now, interest in potentially getting into politics, or at least understanding more about it. So I was really pleased to have this opportunity. But yes, so I think you're right. Transferable skills from a lawyer to a politician. Stephanie and Susan have both touched on some of this, but Look, I think lawyers can bring a lot of useful skills to the table. They're not the only skills that a politician needs, but I think, as Stephanie said, I think a successful political system, you have politicians with a breadth and range of skills as well as backgrounds. So, as you said, I'm a solicitor in a large city firm. I'm a corporate lawyer. I advise clients on their corporate structures and buying and selling businesses. But what does that actually mean? What do I do as a lawyer in terms of skills? So I listen to my clients who come from different organizations, different countries. They usually want me to help them fix something or to achieve something. I analyze their issues. I often have to negotiate on their behalf, commit to writing what's been agreed. And ultimately, what am I doing? I'm executing and managing their matters. And I think these are all really important skills for getting things done, for getting things fixed, which feels to me like a good politician skill. I also have to, as do most lawyers, often explain sort of alien legal concepts to my clients. They're all really smart people, but they're not lawyers. So I think to be able to explain something clearly and untechnically, you really have to understand it and understand the people you're delivering the message to. So I think that's an element of sort of empathy there. Stephanie already said this as well. You do a lot of reading and digesting as a lawyer. You have to work out what the key points are, often from reams and reams of paper, but also you have to be all over all the detail. And I get the impression that politics involves a lot of papers. So I think that's definitely a transferable skill. I think my perception is that listening is probably one of the key skills. As a politician, you're there to represent people who elected you. So you need to be able to listen to them, presumably also with an open mind, not impose your own perspective on the issue. And then to be able to identify the issues and present and debate them. So being a good and clear orator is also an important skill. And lawyers, well, we do a lot of speaking for a living. And ultimately, we fix things or change things or improve things. And I think as a politician, that's what you do. You need to get things done. And I know this isn't the question, but I would also say, sweeping generalization, back to the listening skill point, I do think women have particularly good listening skills. And I think they also tend to show compassion. And personally, I think there needs to be as much compassion as possible in politics. So yes, in short, lots of relevant skills that play well in politics, or at least provide the foundation for the skills that you need to develop as a politician.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. And I agree. I think women have great listening skills. And in fact, if you do want to debate effectively, you need to be able to listen to your opponent's argument. So I now have another question coming to you, Stephanie, and actually it's coming back to the women question. Why do you think we need more women in Parliament, and or diversity in general, perhaps? And does better representation improve lawmaking? Can you think of any?
Absolutely. Hopefully you can hear me. My network is slightly unstable, but hopefully you can hear me. So better representation undoubtedly improves lawmaking by ensuring that different perspectives are heard throughout, bills, progress, legislative progress. But, when we talk about diversity, of course, diversity of thought, the richness that diversity brings to the table ensures that all voices are heard. So in addition, as a group, women are an enormous pool of talent with just as wide, if not wider set of experience and viewpoints as men, and of course bring an important perspective on the challenges that can be faced by underrepresented groups in traditionally what is a male-oriented environment. And of course, increasing diversity, including gender equality, is a key priority for the Law Society and, of course, for me personally as president. And many of the learnings that have come out of the work that the Law Society has done with the solicitors' profession on this matter can be applied in this context of increasing gender balance in many areas, including in Parliament. So increasing gender equality in the profession has proved to be not just a moral, an ethical imperative, but it's a business one. It makes business sense. And research suggests that gender balance and parity has a fundamental bearing on whether or not economies and societies are able to thrive. So enabling the proportion of the world's talent that women represent can have a significant impact on the growth, the competitiveness and future readiness of economies and businesses worldwide. And there is ever more important this is ever more important as we, of course, emerge from the pandemic to rebuild and grow our economies, our businesses and jobs. And compelling evidence shows that companies with a good gender balance and a good diversity balance consistently outperform those that do not. So the Women's Business Council, for instance, estimates that fairer treatment for women in the workplace could add over £150 billion to GDP by 2030. So many of the barriers to progression we have already identified for women in the legal profession, such as unconscious bias, male orientation of traditional networks, and routes to promotion, will no doubt apply to those seeking to build a career in representative politics as well. So it is clear that greater representation of women makes good sense, as well as being a moral and ethical imperative. It is essential that decision makers represent the society that they are seeking to serve, which is true of any profession or organisation. And only by reflecting the groups we serve, the diversity, the richness of those groups, can we effectively represent them in the public interest.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephanie. And I love your reference to networks. Yeah, we all know about the old boys network. And that exactly is what 50-50 is about, you know, generating a different kind of network. I mean, I don't want to call us the new girls network because men are welcome too. And we have lots of men who support the work that we do. And yeah, that's exactly what we're about. And it just makes better, you know, as you say, for better decision making. So another question for you, Susan. How do you think your pro bono and other work would equip you for life as an MP or a counsellor, or indeed, you know, other legal women? I mean, really just sort of developing upon all the points that Ania just made. Is there anything you'd like to add about what you think legal women could bring to Parliament and elected bodies?
Thanks, Frances. Yes, I mean, we've probably got people on the call here who come from a whole range of different backgrounds in terms of legal careers. I'm from a big sort of city-based firm. I imagine there are people from a whole range of different, maybe high street firms, people who work in-house, people who work in government and so on. And so we all bring a different experience and so on. And in all of those roles, they will give us the transferable skills that have been talked about already. But just to add, thinking about sort of pro bono and volunteering type work, many lawyers do get very involved in pro bono activity and using our legal skills to help in a whole variety of ways. And I do think that gives you insight into what's going on in the world. You know, I think about some of the pro bono and volunteering activity that I've done in the course of my career, and it's spanned some really interesting big issues, domestic abuse, dealing with refugees, importance of voting, modern slavery type issues, you know, thinking right across the piece. And that gives you the opportunity as a lawyer to be involved in advocacy, trying to advocate for change, but it also gives you that experience of dealing with individuals, which you might get in your fee earning roles as well, but particularly on the pro bono side, in my experience, dealing and making a difference to an individual. And in a sense, that may play into some experience of helping your constituents with, you know, particular issues that they may face. So I think, and it also it's a tradition of public service, isn't it? It's being used to using the skills, using your voice, advocating for others, making a difference, responding to issues and so on. So I think that tradition, which is really strong within the legal profession, of using your skills on a pro bono basis or volunteering in different ways, is really good groundwork, if you like, potentially for getting involved in the political process.
Yeah, absolutely. A huge sort of variety of people that you meet when you do, and circumstances. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Susan. And Ania, how do you think your legal background and understanding of the law prepares you for good governance?
Thanks, that's a good question. So I appreciate, as Susan said, we're all lawyers from lots of different backgrounds, but as we don't all advise on governance, I mean, I do personally, and I think a lot of lawyers are involved in it, at least peripherally. So in my job, I get to see a lot of governance in action. I often advise clients actually on putting in place effective governance frameworks. I see good governance, I see bad governance at my clients or at the companies that my clients are looking to buy. I also suppose see governance in action in the firm where I work. And I think most importantly, I see the real importance of good governance for a good functioning organisation and for the success of a business and its people and their well-being and job satisfaction. I think lawyers are risk adverse, actually probably better risk aware by nature, which I think is an essential component in good governance or identifying good governance, as is communication, which again I think is a strong lawyer skill. We are, as lawyers, familiar, or at least have the skill set to become familiar with governance, sort of guidance and rules and frameworks and that sort of thing. So it's not something that's alien to us. I think we're used to working within a legal framework or identifying frameworks. And I think that also puts us in a position where we're able to challenge poor governance or make suggestions to improve governance. And I would say that's an important backbone to politics. I mean, as a sort of anecdote, sort of a personal anecdote, I became a school governor of a local primary school about 5 years ago, because I have a real passion for education and I wanted to use my lawyer skills in that context. And they've definitely come in useful, particularly from a getting things done perspective. Although I must say I sort of had to temper them a little bit, if that makes sense. I probably had to use them more sympathetically and patiently, perhaps. I think that sort of reflects the transition from private to public sector, but that was a very small adjustment. The foundations were there. So yeah, so in short, I think a legal background prepares you very, very well for ensuring good governance and advocating for good governance.
Great. Well, thank you very much indeed. And so now really, I'm just going to throw some questions out there to all of you. Given that what we are here to do is sort of inspire and encourage women to stand, lawyers and others to stand, how can men and women encourage the women and the lawyers in your female lawyers in your ranks to stand? What do you think we can do, and what do you think the attractions might be of an elected position? I don't know who would like to start with that.
I mean, I can start briefly. I mean, I think events like this.
Yeah. What is it? Ania, what are you considering doing? What you say you might consider standing for elected office?
Oh, my pie in the sky dream. I'd love to be Mayor of London. Mayor of London as a born and bred Londoner, but I think that's sort of pie in the sky. But no, I mean, how can men and women encourage women lawyers? I mean, I think events like this are super important, because I don't know about other lawyers, but I like to know details. I like to understand the process. I like to understand the steps. So I think, and it seems like quite a, I don't know, politics seems like quite an alien world to me. And it feels like maybe you need to know someone, or you need to have been involved with a party for like 30 years, or your parents must have been. So it's quite useful to break down those barriers. So I really think that events like this, and then people who have joined events like this, sort of planting the seed amongst their colleagues. You know, I joined this really good event. And I suppose maybe is role modeling the right word, i.e. this whole thing we've been talking about, transferable skills, like showing people that actually, you know, you could make a good politician. You don't have to be political because you have really good foundation in the transferable skills that you have. So that's my 2 pence worth.
Oh, thanks ever so much, Ania. And that's exactly what our bite-sized meetings do. Every week for each party, women come to meet other women in the party, women who've, you know, been elected or stood for election, and they hear about the process. These are small groups of supportive places where, you know, no question, there's no such thing as the student, and hear about how to progress within your given party. I don't know, Stephanie, would you like to add anything to how you think we can encourage women from the law to take this step?
I mean, absolutely. I would echo what Ania's already said, that, you know, events such as this play an important part, you know, because the first barrier for many is knowing where to start or how to get involved. So raising awareness is absolutely important, as well as active outreach, perhaps from those who've already taken the step. Working in Parliament, you know, could be good advocates for others to get involved. And that includes both men and women, because we know, the Law Society knows that through our work, how important male allies are. And we spoke about this, of course, earlier. So, you know, male allies can play an important role in encouraging and raising awareness of these roles and what it entails. And championing the work that is being done. So that, you know, women can see the work that's being done, put themselves forward, and know that they are valued in putting themselves forward, but also to draw on the work that's already been done around diversity in the legal profession. And I believe that it's essential that we create an atmosphere that is conducive to flexible and effective ways of working, so that, you know, individuals know that actually that they can go into politics, into Parliament, and, you know, Parliament is going to be flexible in terms of, we spoke about some of those issues, childcare and so forth. But again, you know, looking at the environment, and it's an environment where, you know, anything, should be possible in tackling some of those unconscious biases, and that's where male allies can come into it. But visibility, and Ania spoke about this as well, visibility is absolutely key. We know that. You know, if you can see it, you can be it. And so that's why it's absolutely important that those who have who are there, you know, are, you know, great advocates to encourage others to come into politics, and to, you know, be visible in the space, and to speak about their experience as well.
Thanks for that. I'm just looking at the chat function. Joy Davies says to everyone, law firms could offer unpaid leave to allow them to campaign for an election with their jobs still available if they aren't elected. Stephanie, do you think that's something the Law Society would support?
I think it's important that, you know, every firm, every workplace, you know, speaks to their, you know, there's a two-way conversation. Employees speak to employers as to what their needs are. You know, we have flexible working like we've never had it before. So I think it's important that you have those discussions with your managers and has because every case is going to be treated differently.
No, absolutely. And someone's asked Annabelle, can we get a recording of this? Yes, Beth will be writing a blog and a recording will be attached. Someone says the best experience is to do grassroots campaigning. That's Divya, I think. And it would be helpful to understand more about how to get on the list. If you want to learn about that, then come to the bite-sized meetings. Great. So finally, Susan, what do you think is the key thing to do in terms of encouraging women? And I'm interested about what Amanda did.
Yes, no, also going back to the beginning, for those of you who didn't hear me right at the beginning, I said Amanda Carpenter, who's the chair of 50/50 Parliament, I was just really struck when we met each other and she said, have you ever thought of standing for Parliament? And I was really struck by the impact that question had on me, because, as I said, no, I'd never thought about it. It hadn't even crossed my mind. But the fact that somebody actually asked the question, and I think the evidence is a woman probably needs to be asked at least 3 times before she seriously considers it. But it was really powerful. So I would say, how can men and women encourage women lawyers to stand? Ask them the question. Look behind Frances. It says hashtag ask her to stand. That in itself is really powerful. And then hopefully it leads to, you know, this type of event where people come and find out a bit more and hopefully want to continue on that journey.
Yeah, thanks for that, Susan. I was hoping it's what you'd say. And you're quite right. The evidence is that, in fact, men who go into politics don't need to be asked. They sort of look in the mirror when they're little boys and imagine themselves as the next PM or president of the United States. But women do need to be asked. They need to be asked, 3 times. And it's difficult to know why the reasons might be. But I imagine, you know, it's just historic, it's sociological, it's conditioning. But once the seed is planted, and if you inform them that there's an organization like 50/50 that's here to help, then you know, this can be ever so powerful. So please spread the word. Ask the women that you know that would make good representatives to consider it. That would be a fantastic start. So I'm just trying to see if there are any other questions coming up in the someone here says, I've recently started the journey with no prior experience or network. I can give a brief background on what that's like. That's great. Come to our bite-sized meetings. I'm just seeing if there are any more questions. Join 50/50 grassroots, your local parties, get involved in communities. We had some questions come in before that were sent in advance. What advice would any of our panel give to a 17-year-old who's thinking of a career in law or politics? Is it a good career? Susan, who would like to answer that one? Ania?
Well, clearly a career in law is fantastic and can be incredibly varied. Not only can you advise your clients on law, but you can also, I mean, my own sort of career has been a variety of, I'm a competition lawyer, so I trained and became a competition lawyer, so specialised, but I've also had the ability to take on all sorts of different roles during my career, work in different places. I've worked in Brussels, I've worked in the United States. So it's a really interesting career and then can lead on to other things. In terms of politics, as a 17-year-old, my encouragement, other people may say something different, but my encouragement would be to somebody to go and do all sorts of other things first, because I think being able to bring broader life experience into the role of a politician is important. But you know, you can start off with elected office more locally and then build from there. So encouragement, because at the end of the day, that's where you can make a difference. You can impact on policy and you can impact on the law, and you can bring that experience to bear.
I have another question here, and we work with all the political parties, but one person says, I'm interested in politics, but I don't know what party to stand for. Do you have any advice, please? I mean, I guess that's a bit of a tricky question for any of you to answer, but I don't know. Stephanie, can I put that to you? How do you think people should choose which party to stand for?
Well, I think it's important. I think it's important to look at, party manifestos, look at the party's record, and perhaps, the area that you wish to stand in, look at local politics. What are the local issues? See which party best mirrors those issues and, close to your thinking. It is an individual choice. It's, and everybody is going to be different. Some people will come to this very much with their mind made up as to their party allegiance. Others, like the individual who's posed this question, will need to do a bit more research. But I would suggest you look at look at the issues, look at the parties' manifestos, look at their voting records, their track records, and go from there.
Frances, jump in there?
Yes,
I
thanks
didn't
for that, Ania. Yes, do go ahead,
yeah.
Ania.
I didn't ask that question, but it is also my question, if that makes sense. So what Stephanie's just said is really helpful, and I've been thinking about it. And I wonder if, I suppose, if you're choosing a party, you don't have to, maybe this isn't right, but like, you don't have to believe in every single one of their policies. You have to believe in their foundations, and presumably you can take like a backbencher role, as it were, in politics. So maybe that's the thing. Not, you're not going to believe in everything, but as long as you believe in the core principles. But yeah, it's a question that's been bothering me. So thank you, Stephanie.
I think in addition to that as well is that, you also, whilst you may not agree with everything the party says or does, you still have to be able to hold the party line. And I guess, that's what it's going to boil down to, as to, whether or not your conscience or your beliefs, align with, that particular party.
Absolutely, thanks. And I very good points. And Ania, as you say, though, it is possible, if you've got to have skin in the game if you want to change stuff, and you might not agree completely with everything. So you can sort of try and change it from the inside. And but as Stephanie says, you also have to bear in mind that there will be times when you might have to toe the line, but we are all individuals and we're free thinkers, so we might not feel able to do that. And as our constituency-based system is meant to be that you're representing your constituents, all their, whatever their political persuasion, that is meant to be one of the foundations of our democracy. So you're there to represent the people. You're the people who've elected you. I'm just seeing. Do you support independent candidates? Yes, we do. It is more difficult, but do sign up with us if you are interested in standing as independent. One young woman called Chelsea, who actually is a wheelchair user, came to an event with us in 2018 and stood as an independent and a local councillor and won a seat. And she's really making a difference in her local area in Essex. So yes, we are here to support women, whatever their political persuasions. Let me just see, there was some more questions here. I'm being thrown all sorts of things here. Oh, how can we encourage women from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and with different life experiences to get involved in politics? Or how do you think we can help women who might have fewer advantages from different economic backgrounds?
Frances, for people early, for women who at an earlier stage from disadvantaged backgrounds, there's a fantastic organisation called the Patchwork Foundation, which helps young people, men and women, to understand how politics works. And they have an amazing programme which introduced the young people to politicians from all different parties, and give them an insight into what governments are like, what politics is like. So that is a possibility for people who would like to know more. I'd just like to suggest that as an option, but that tends to be for people sort of starting out, in their late teens, early 20s, in the early part of their careers.
Yeah. There's also an organisation called Activate, which funds women who want to stand in politics and provides additional finance. So that's worth tapping into. What are the opportunities based in Scotland? I'm currently a law student. Well, there are fantastic opportunities in Scotland, and we have connections in Scotland with all the parties, including the SNP. So if you sign up to stand with us, then you can hear more about that. Let me just see, there's another question. Do some branches of the law have more relevance when becoming an MP?
don't think so particularly, honestly. I think we've talked. It's the transferable skill sets, I think, that we've talked about earlier. And we're talking about lawyers today as a particular constituency of people we'd love to encourage to stand, but it's not just lawyers. We'll do another session for, as Francis said, for the NHS and all sorts of other groupings. But I think it's the transferable skills of a lawyer, which can be really helpful.
And I think the other thing as well is, we work in the public interest. Lawyers are there to uphold the rule of law, to enable individuals to access, and to access and exercise their rights. And I think most, parliamentarians are there to affect positive change at a decision-making level. So I think that's important as well.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm just seeing. There's a young woman here who has a science background, and she would appreciate tips and skills that would help me understand this game of politics and overcome the challenges on this journey. Well, please sign up to stand with us, and then you can come to the bite-sized meetings and learn more about it. How can I get more involved and stand as a representative? Sign up to stand with us. What does it take for a woman to become a lawmaker? Well, you can start by signing up to stand with 50/50, and we can help you take the next step. I think we've pretty much got through it. I'm seeing. Oh, I think I'm. There's one person here who I live in an area that's predominantly one particular party, and I want to stand for another. How could you answer? Yeah, so I mean that's tricky, and that's something to do with our democratic system. If you live in a constituency that is what's called a safe seat, but you want to represent another party, then it is possible to join the party and put yourself up as a candidate in another constituency. But there's no such thing really as a safe seat. One of the first women I asked to stand was Rosie Duffield, and she stood in Canterbury, which was had always been a Conservative seat. She wanted to stand for Labour, and when she stood, she was so good at electioneering and canvassing that she was elected and tipped that what had always been a Conservative seat to a Labour seat, and has consistently won it since she first won it. So I think particularly with politics these days, there's no such thing as a safe seat. So just get involved. Yes, we are going to run other events. Events sort of aimed at educators, women who work in the NHS, and things like that. So it seems that all the questions have been asked. So I'm really just going to wrap up now and say huge thanks to our fantastic panel for sharing your experiences. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any key sentence anything you'd like to say? Stephanie, Susan, Ania, that I've missed?
Well, what I would say is that we've spoke about putting yourself forward. And, if at first you don't succeed, it's important that you continue to try. When I think about my own experience, not in politics, but as president of the Law Society, after 4 attempts, I was successful, and I was determined not to give up. So it's important that we continue going, and to echo those words from the old battlefield, that when we do, we must lift as we climb.
Fantastic, Stephanie. I completely agree. Never give up and learn to lose. We all learn from losing, and then could take on the next one. Thanks for that. That's so uplifting. Ania, Susan, do you want to add anything?
I mean, I could be corny and just say your hashtags behind you, because I do really believe in them, i.e. sign up to stand yourself, or ask her to stand, so advocate for someone else, encourage someone else. So maybe at the end of this, we should all at least do one of those two things.
Oh, thank you, Ania. Yes, that would be great. Susan.
No, I'll just
Well,
it's very hard. I'm muted. I was muted. Can you hear me now?
I think you're unmuted now.
Okay. No, so sorry.
Yes, go on.
I was just going to say, very hard to follow those two, but I'd just like to say that I'm very excited about being invited to be a trustee of 50/50 Parliament. And so I'm really hopeful that even before I get to take on that role, that one or more people on this call will take this journey and will go on to get a seat in Parliament. That would be so exciting.
Yes, completely. Well, if you like the work that 50/50 does, please donate or become a friend of 50/50. The reason this matters is that representation shapes policy, and women's life experience count massively. The work that women do and the roles that we play are crucial to society's well-being. Our voices are essential in forming future legislation. We account for the majority of the population. It's our planet, and we need to play our part in protecting it. Parliament should draw upon the widest possible pool of talent, including the 32 million UK women. We account for over 50% of graduates and 60% of law graduates. At the last election, only 220 women won seats in the Commons. We still need 105 more women to get seats to have parity. The mood music in political circles seems encouraging. All the party leaders have voiced support for 50/50, and the Labour Party already has 50/50 representation, with 104 women elected to Westminster in 2019. We need more women with legal experience in our Parliament. Practicing the law and engaging with people from all walks of life gives you a great understanding of British society. So it's you we're looking to. If you're inspired by this evening, go to sign up to stand with 50/50 so we can help you take the next step along your path into politics. Who knows, we may have a future Prime Minister attending this evening. I sure hope so. And follow us. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter and retweet, share and like our posts on Facebook, and we're on LinkedIn. And it's a heartfelt thanks to a fantastic panel. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. And I look forward to seeing you all again. We are actually we're hoping to have a live event in Parliament on the 8th of March. And so we'll be promoting that over the weeks to come. So hope to see some of you there. Good evening.